I found my identity through food that would fuel a drive to dig deep into the history of my Omani and Zanzibari heritage. I now want to meet others and discover their history with them and the recipes that keep them connected to their heritage. Welcome to Dina's Coming Home.
Hey Chris.
Hey Dina, where are you going?
I'm off to learn about Latvia and chibureki. Today I'm in a small town called Winnersh, just outside of Reading, and I'm here to meet the lovely Anya Peach. She's going to be showing me how to make her delicious chibureki, as well as learning about her time growing up in Latvia before heading to the UK. Now let's go inside and meet her.
Hi Dina.
Hi! So glad to finally meet you.
I know, how exciting.
So let's talk about the dish that you chose today, because as soon as I mentioned to you that I wanted to come over and film something with you, you were like, I know which dish. You just knew it straight away. So please, like, what is the dish and why?
The dish is called chibureki, and it's essentially a fried turnover with meat in it. As a child, we bought them frozen from a shop and had them in the freezer for a quick, easy dinner. And they would come with different like meat varieties, and some come with cheese. They were my favorite with the cheese. And whenever we had them at home, it'd be like a treat. You know, it's a frozen good that my mum didn't have to cook. So we're just enjoying this, and it's fried and it's delicious and it's dough. And my mum was telling me lots of like really great stories about how friends would come over and they would have like a chibureki making party.
What? That's
so like
fun.
now, you know, people will be like, oh, we just had like a pasta party. We made like tortellini and stuff. People would come over and do like chibureki.
Oh my god!
Because it's a whole like production line. Yeah.
I guess that would be like us having like a samosa party, and everyone just, and that's a good way to just get everyone to make all of your dinner for the rest of the week.
And then you in the freezer. So the dough is made with hot water,
which I love, by the way.
It makes it so much easier.
Yeah. Okay, so boiling water goes in, and then we're adding in
oil, so vegetable or sunflower, and then some salt. And then you start adding flour bit by bit. And then we knead for 5-6 minutes, but you can see it once the dough stops breaking up on the outside. That's when the gluten started working.
Do you know so much science into dough?
I know, but I don't understand the science. I pretend that I do.
I just leave it for the machine, okay? I don't do the hard work.
I was born in Latvia. My parents are Russian. So I see myself as Russian because my first mother tongue is Russian. I was surrounded by Russian people. I went to a Russian school. And then when I was 14, me and my mom moved to Cyprus. We got our European citizenship like around the time Latvia joined European Union, because until then we were aliens in Latvia.
What?
Yeah, because we were Russian in Latvia post-Soviet. Our passports were alien passports.
Oh
even though
God.
I was born there. My birth certificate is still Soviet certificate, because when the Soviets came to Latvia, for example, they declared Russian the national language. It's insane to think that someone could come and do that.
So how long had your parents been in Latvia before, like once they left Russia? Why did they leave? Was it because of the Soviet?
No, so my mom was born in Odessa in Ukraine. My mom lived in Russia until she was 16. She moved to Latvia, to my hometown Liepāja, and she met my dad. And my dad was in Latvia because his dad was working for the army, and they moved around a lot. So my dad was born in Kazakhstan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A few years later, we moved to Cyprus with my mom. At the time, my dad was in England. He was in Cambridge. He said, why don't you come to Cambridge? You know, you can settle here and study and whatever. And I was 14, 15 at the time. And it was, a lot to process. First moving to Cyprus was like a culture shock, going somewhere where you don't speak the language. And then just as you kind of begin to settle, we'll take you somewhere else.
And did you like go through a moment where you didn't want to be Russian or Latvian? Did you try and like kind of suppress that feeling and try to be as English as you could?
100%. I think when we first moved, I still felt very connected to Latvia. I missed my friends. I missed what I knew. I missed being comfortable. So I kept going back and visiting and seeing my friends. And every time you leave, you're very sad. But then there was one visit and I hung out with people that I used to be friends with. And something changed. They didn't change, I changed. Because I lived in England, I was a lot more open-minded. This was the last time I went back when I was 16 because I just thought, like, I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to think like that. I don't want to say things like that because my values have changed and how I look at the world has changed. So I really just connected and built my own community here.
Yeah.
Kind of started adapting more, started university. And again, I had friends from all over the place. And I think it's only recently, maybe a few years ago, where I was like, well, actually, there's so much for me to discover still. So whilst it rests, we make the filling. So you mix the mince with the onions and the seasoning, and then add a bit of water as well. So when my mum described it to me, she said it has to be consistency of very thick sour cream.
It's a meat filling, and I'm just trying to imagine that consistency, so
yeah,
I'm interested to see it. This is the first time I'm ever cooking something with chicken mince.
Okay, well, let's see how it works out.
Chicken mince scares me.
Why?
I don't know, it's the idea of a chicken being minced. I don't know why. Do you use any spices in Latvia or in Russian cooking?
Traditionally, it's quite bland if you think in comparison to like Middle East and other countries. So when I moved to Cyprus first and then to here and started like exploring other cuisines, it was like my mind was blown. A good practiced person will roll it into a circle. I will roll it into whatever I can.
I know you say Latvian food is more or less food from the Soviet, but what are like 3 or 4 classical dishes from Latvia and the ingredients?
So Latvia is big on fish.
Because you're right next to the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they love a fish soup, which I do not.
Oh, what? Why don't you like
Fishy fish, not for me. We used to go to this little market in our town where we lived, and you could see seasons change, and you get excited when you see baby potatoes, you get excited when you see spring onions, you get excited when you see dill. You're like, yes, we're going to boil these potatoes and we're going to put lots of butter, lots of dill and spring onions. And still to this day, like one of my favorite things. Spring comes and I want to go and get those baby potatoes and make that because that's like marking it for me that the spring is here.
So we folded these perfectly, beautifully, and they're huge. And now you're about to tell me we're going to shallow fry them.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like they're too big.
You won't see much deep frying in Latvia or Russia or ex-Soviet countries because it's unhealthy. And they've always been shallow fried and it works.
Like the Arab and East African in me is screaming, like how? Even when you first showed me a picture of them, I was like, oh yeah, these are definitely deep fried. And then I was like, no way.
Yeah. In my hometown, there was a cafe called chibureki where they just literally made chibureki, nothing else. And one chiburek would cost 12 kopeki, Soviet currency. And my mum would go there with her friends when she was skipping school. And she said we'd order 3 between us and share them. And she said you could get a glass of tomato juice, or you could get a 3-litre jar of tomato juice.
Oh wow. Oh my god, they were heavy on the tomato juice.
They love tomato juice.
I think I have a newfound love for tomato juice too after trying them with these chibureki. I knew nothing about Latvia before and I cannot wait to visit and try these in that same shop. Tune in for the next episode of Dina's Coming Home.
I feel like I ate this like a maniac because I started from the middle, but I wanted the meat straight away.